I can still smell cold coffee when I think about that night. I don't know why that memory insists on starting in the kitchen at 3 in the morning, with the rain hitting the window and my hands shaking around the mug I'd forgotten to drink. Maybe because that's where everything really started. Right there, in the silence of that dawn, where I decided to do the unthinkable. Have you ever been ashamed of yourself? The kind of shame that hurts in your stomach, that makes you avoid your own reflection in the mirror. That's what I feel every time I remember. Anger at myself. Anger for believing I could control fate with a stupid plan. Anger for turning my marriage into a social experiment. Arthur was still asleep in the bedroom, or pretending to sleep. I'll never know. And I was there in the kitchen, typing a message to a stranger, hiring an actress to test the loyalty of the man I swore to love until death do us part. Death came sooner than I expected, but it wasn't us who died. It was the marriage. It was the trust. It was the version of me that still believed in happy endings. And the worst part? The whole world watched. Scene 2. Before everything fell apart, my life looked like one of those perfect Instagram posts. You know those photos that make you stop scrolling, smiling couples at fancy events, hands intertwined, eyes promising forever. That was us, Arthur and me, the couple everyone envied. At least that's what I kept hearing. At parties, events, charity dinners where I wore dresses that cost more than a used car and smiled at cameras flashing like frantic fireflies. You two are so beautiful together. What a perfect couple. Arthur is a lucky man. That last one always bothered me. Like the luck was only his. Like I was the prize and he was the winner. But I never said anything. I just smiled, tilted my head gracefully, and whispered, "Thank you," with the soft voice I'd learned to use in public. Arthur was a businessman, not the kind you run into on any corner. He was the type who fills a room just by walking in. Tall, maybe 6'2", broad shoulders filling custom Italian suits, hair always perfect, trimmed every 2 weeks at the same barber who worked on politicians and CEOs. He had that natural charisma you can't teach. People leaned in when he talked, literally, like every word was some precious secret they couldn't risk missing. He led conversations without raising his voice. One look was enough. One smile disarmed anyone. And that cologne. God, that cologne. Woody, with cedar notes and something spicy I never managed to identify. It lingered in the hallways of our house, marking his presence even after he'd gone. I used to love that smell. It smelled like safety, like home. Later, it smelled like a painful memory. I was the devoted wife, the one who remembered the names of the partners and their wives, the one who organized the events for the foundation that carried his name, choosing flowers, testing menus, making sure every detail was perfect, the one who smiled in the right places, laughed at the right jokes, and knew exactly when to slip away so he could shine. I learned to walk in his shadow. For a long time, I thought that was fine. That's how marriages worked, especially marriages like ours, a sun and a moon. He lit everything up, I reflected. Our house looked like a magazine spread. One of those places that show up in articles about successful lifestyles. High ceilings, huge windows pouring natural light into every room, minimalist Scandinavian furniture, every piece picked by some renowned designer, fresh flowers delivered every Monday, white tulips in the winter, blush peonies in spring, lilies in summer, always matching the neutral palette of the living room. Scented candles strategically placed, vanilla by the entry, lavender in the bedroom, something citrusy in the kitchen. Everything screamed success, control, perfection. But the truth was, we were almost never there. Arthur was always traveling. New York on Monday, L.A. on Thursday, Miami on the weekend. Important meetings, he said, contracts that can't wait. And I stayed behind, in that beautiful, empty house, listening to the echo of my own footsteps on the polished wood floor. When he was home, there was a different kind of emptiness. The silence was so heavy I could hear him breathe. Not the comfortable silence of two people who don't need to fill every moment, but the uncomfortable silence of two strangers sharing the same space. We had dinner together sometimes, him sitting at one end of a table that seated 12, me at the other. We talked about basic stuff. The weather, the news, the next event, never about us. At night, he'd lie beside me, but there were miles between our bodies. He slept facing his side, me facing mine, like two continents that were once connected but drifted apart so slowly no one noticed when the ocean formed between them. There were good moments, of course. I clinged to them like life rafts. Rushed dinners between commitments, when he ordered Chinese takeout and we ate straight from the boxes, laughing at something stupid on TV. Quick kisses before trips, when he held my face with both hands and said, "I'll miss you." Loving messages sent from airports in the middle of the night. Thinking of you, love you. But I didn't notice when those moments started to feel more like obligation than love. I didn't notice when "I love you" became automatic, said at the end of every call like someone saying, "See you later." When his hand on my waist during photos started to feel mechanical, like I was just an accessory standing in the right place. When his eyes stopped searching for me when he walked into the house, passing straight by me like I was part of the furniture. Or maybe I did notice, and just pretended I didn't. Because admitting something was wrong meant doing something about it, and doing something meant facing the possibility that the perfect marriage, the perfect life, the perfect man, were nothing but a well-built illusion, and I wasn't ready to let that illusion die. Not yet. Scene 3, the suspicions started subtly, the way they always do. There wasn't some dramatic moment, no caught kiss, no forgotten message open on the screen. It was something more insidious. Like a slow leak in a house foundation that you only notice once the cracks show up on the walls. It started with Rachel, the new executive assistant, 26 Therese, fresh out of an elite university, impeccable resume, glowing references. Arthur hired her without consulting me, which wasn't unusual. He handled the business, I handled the house and the events. Clear division, but I met her at a corporate dinner. Perfectly straight blonde hair down her shoulders. Navy blue dress professional enough not to seem provocative, but fitted enough not to go unnoticed. Bright smile, straight teeth, subtle but flawless makeup. And that laugh, too loud, too quick. Especially when Arthur talked. "She's really efficient," Arthur said when we got home that night. I was taking off my earrings in front of the bedroom mirror. "Seems like it. She organized the whole Miami conference on her own. Amazing." There was something in his tone. Admiration. Not the professional kind, the personal kind. I swallowed the question I really wanted to ask. Why are you talking about her like that? Instead, I smiled at the mirror. Good thing you found someone competent, and I let it die there. But it didn't die. In the following weeks, her name popped up way too often. Rachel suggested we change the marketing strategy. Rachel got that contact with the Boston investors. Rachel thought it'd be better to reschedule the meeting. Rachel, like she was the only employee in the company. Then came the trips. Arthur always traveled a lot, part of the job, but the frequency increased, and the duration too. Meeting in New York, back Friday. Conference in L.A., need to stay until Sunday. Dinner with investors in Miami, I'll extend until Monday. Always beautiful places, always without me. You wouldn't enjoy it, love, he said when I asked why he didn't invite me. Just boring meetings, endless presentations, you'd be miserable. But when I saw the foundation's social media photos, they didn't look boring. Arthur smiling at fancy ocean view restaurants, Arthur toasting with champagne on 5-star hotel terraces, and always, Rachel in the photo. Team celebrating the new contract, the caption said, but it was just the two of them. One time I commented, "Looks like the Miami trip was a success." He barely looked up from his phone. We closed the deal. Rachel was there too. Pause. Short. Almost invisible. Of course. She manages the accounts for that investor group. He went back to his phone, like the conversation was over. The phone? That was the biggest sign. It began vibrating at all hours. 3 in the morning, 6 a.m. on Saturday, midnight on Sunday. Arthur grabbed it immediately, checked the screen, and got up. Office emergency, he whispered, leaving the room. Sometimes he went to the bathroom, other times to the office, but always with the phone, always behind a closed door. I started paying attention to the small details. Shirts coming back from the dry cleaner with a different smell. Floral, light, definitely feminine. The little hidden smile when he typed on his phone. That kind of intimate smile like sharing an inside joke with someone. The way he'd turn his body when I approached while he was on his phone, instinctively shielding the screen. One night, I woke up and he wasn't in bed. It was 2:30 a.m. I went downstairs quietly. The office light was on, a thin line glowing under the door. I pressed my ear to the wood. I heard his voice, low, soft, the way he used to talk to me in the early years. No, you're not bothering me. I was awake anyway. Pause. A laugh. Light. Intimate. You're silly. Of course not. My heart was beating so loud I worried he'd hear it through the door. I went back to the bedroom before he caught me listening. When he came to bed 20 minutes later, I pretended to sleep. He lay down beside me but didn't touch me. And for the first time, I felt something besides confusion. I felt fear. Because some part of me already knew. Even without concrete proof, even without catching him, my body knew. The way my stomach tightened when he mentioned her name, the way my hands sweated when he grabbed his phone, the way my chest ached when he kissed my forehead in that distant, paternal way. I tried asking. Once, just once. It was a Sunday morning. We were having breakfast in the kitchen, him flipping through the newspaper, me pretending to read emails. Arthur. Are you okay? He looked up, surprised. Of course. Why? You seem distant. He folded the newspaper slowly, giving me full attention for the first time in weeks. I'm just tired. You know how it is. Business never stops. Then he did something that completely disarmed me. He stood up, walked over, and kissed my forehead. Sorry if I've been absent. I promise it'll get better once we close this contract cycle. His voice sounded sincere. His eyes looked genuine. And for a second, I doubted myself. Was I imagining things? Was my insecurity creating problems that didn't exist? But then he went back to his chair, grabbed his phone, and smiled at the screen. That smile, and I knew. That's when I decided I needed to know for sure. Not with questions he could dodge, not with pleas that made me look needy and insecure. I needed proof, or relief. Scene 4. But admitting that I was suspicious of him meant admitting my marriage was falling apart. And I wasn't ready for that. I spent weeks convincing myself it was paranoia, that I was exaggerating, that his work stress explained everything, that I was a terrible wife for doubting such a dedicated, successful, perfect man. At night, I'd lie beside him staring at the ceiling, listening to his heavy breathing while he slept. And I'd wonder, what if I'm wrong? Because if I was wrong, that meant I was the problem, that my insecurity was poisoning the relationship, that I was destroying something good out of pure neurosis. But what if I was right? That question was worse, much worse, because it meant everything was a lie. The promises, the vows, the whispered I love yous in the dark. All of it. I tried distracting myself, threw myself into work, booked lunches with friends, took yoga classes, anything to avoid thinking, to avoid feeling that tightness in my chest every time his phone vibrated and he left the room. But the human mind is cruel. The more you try not to think about something, the more it devours you. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with my heart racing, checking his phone while he slept. I never unlocked it, never had the courage. But I'd stare at that black screen and feel betrayal pulsing behind passwords and apps. One of those nights, the idea appeared, like a poisonous whisper. What if you tested him? Scene 5. I remember exactly the moment I met Arthur. It's not one of those faded memories you piece together. It's clear, sharp, like it happened yesterday. It was at a corporate event downtown, in one of those fancy hotels with crystal chandeliers and waiters walking around with champagne trays. A networking party for up-and-coming professionals, as the invitation said. I was there out of obligation. My boss dragged me, saying it was important to make connections. But I hated those things. Empty conversations, forced smiles, everyone pretending to care while scanning the room for someone more important. I was about to leave when he approached. Tall, elegant, wearing a gray suit that probably cost more than my rent. But that wasn't what caught my attention. It was the smile. A little crooked. Genuine. Like he was bored with the party too, and had found a partner in crime. "You look as excited about this party as I am," he said, leaning against the wall next to me. I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Is it that obvious?" "You checked the time 3 times in the last 5 minutes." I blushed. I'm terrible at hiding boredom. That's a quality, not a flaw. He held out his hand. "Arthur Morrison. Nice to meet you." I shook his hand, feeling the warm, firm grip of his fingers. We talked all night. Or better, he talked. He asked questions. Real ones, not the usual predictable ones people ask at events. "What do you do? Where do you work? Do you know so-and-so?" He asked things that mattered. "What would you rather be doing than being here? If you could do anything in the world without worrying about money or judgment, what would it be? When was the last time you felt truly alive?" No one had ever asked me things like that. And for the first time in years, I talked, really talked, about dreams I'd shoved into a drawer, about fears I'd never admitted aloud, about the version of myself I wanted to be but was scared to try. He listened, really listened, not looking over my shoulder for someone else, not checking his phone, just listening. At the end of the night, when the event was emptying out and the waiters were collecting the glasses, he asked for my number. "I'd like to continue this conversation," he said, "without bad champagne and awful background music." I gave him my number without hesitating. He called the next day. Not 3 days later like the dating rules say. He called the next day at 9 a.m. and asked if I wanted dinner that night. Our first months were like a movie. Candlelit dinners in hidden local restaurants. Conversations that lasted until dawn. Sitting on my couch with forgotten cups of tea on the table. Silly texts during the day. Photos of random things that reminded him of me. Dumb memes that made me laugh out loud at the office. He made me feel seen. Not like a trophy to show off, but like a person worth paying attention to. Someone with interesting things to say. Someone worth his time. I remember one specific night. We were driving back from a weekend at the beach. Soft music playing on the radio. My hand on his. Our fingers intertwined over the gear shift. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. "I could do this forever," he whispered. "Drive?" He laughed. "Be with you?" My heart jumped. I turned to look at him, and he glanced at me quickly before looking back at the road. "I love you," he said. Just like that. No drama. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I love you too," I said. And in that moment, I believed it would last forever. 2 years later, he proposed. It was on a regular Friday night. No fancy restaurant, no violinists. We were at home, on the couch, watching a movie neither of us cared about. Suddenly, he paused the movie, turned to me. "Marry me." It wasn't a question. It was a statement, like it was inevitable. He didn't even have a ring yet. "Wait, what?" He laughed, nervous, running his hand through his hair. "I know it's sudden. I had planned something elaborate. But sitting here with you, I realized I don't want to wait. I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy. So, marry me," I cried. Not the cute movie cry. The ugly one, sobbing, sniffling. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. The wedding was perfect. Small, intimate, just family and close friends. Outdoors, in a garden with white flowers and fairy lights hanging from the trees. I wore a simple dress I'd found in a vintage boutique. He wore a navy suit that made his eyes glow. We wrote our own vows. His made me cry. I promised to listen to you, even on the days when silence feels easier. I promised to choose you every day, even on the hard ones. I promised to make you laugh, even when everything feels too serious. And I promised to love you, Not the perfect version you think you need to be, but you, exactly as you are. I swore those words were eternal. For a while, they were. But time passed. Work consumed him. Trips increased. Romantic dinners became business meetings. Conversations until dawn turned into quick kisses at the door before he rushed out. And that man who asked me questions about dreams and fears, who really heard me, who promised to choose me every day, he disappeared. And I don't know when we lost each other. All I know is that sitting in that cold kitchen at 3 a.m. with a contract from an actress open in front of me, I didn't recognize who we were anymore. And that memory of him kneeling in that garden, eyes full of sincere promises, stabbed me with sharp, cruel pain, because I was about to destroy the last piece of what was left. Scene 6. The plan was simple, scarily simple. I found the actress online. A discreet profile, recommendations from other people who'd done loyalty tests. Yes, that exists. And yes, I became that kind of person. Her name was Melissa, gorgeous, confident, professional. She sent a portfolio with photos and references, like cheating was a corporate service. Maybe it was. We talked through messages. She was direct. What's your goal? You want him to fail? The question shocked me, because the truth is I didn't know. I wanted relief. I wanted him to gently turn her down so I could finally sleep in peace. But a dark part of me, a part I didn't want to admit, wanted confirmation, wanted to know I wasn't crazy. I just want the truth, I typed. The truth has a price, she replied. I transferred the money, $5,000 for the destruction of my marriage. Cheap, if you think about it. The plan was this. Arthur's Foundation was hosting a charity event in 2 weeks. Big, live-streamed, full of important people. Melissa would go as a guest under a fake name. She'd approach him at the bar, strike up a conversation, test the limits. And if he crosses the line, she asked. You stop, I said. My voice looked firm, but my hand was shaking as I typed. And you'll be there? Yeah, invisible, just watching. She sent a thinking emoji. You sure about this? Because once you see it, there's no going back. I knew, but something in me believed seeing would hurt less than not knowing. How wrong I was. Scene 7. The day of the event came way too fast. Or maybe it dragged on slowly, second by second, every minute weighing on my chest like lead. I don't even know anymore. My memory of that day is strange, fragmented, like my brain tried to protect some pieces and wiped out others. I woke up before the alarm, 5:30 in the morning, still dark outside. Arthur was asleep beside me, turned toward the wall, like always. I stayed there for a few minutes, just staring at the ceiling, listening to his heavy breathing. I thought about waking him up, about confessing everything right then. I hired an actress to test you. She'll be at the event today. Please tell me you won't fail. But I didn't, because some part of me, the cowardly, scared part, still wanted to see what would happen. I got up quietly and went to the bathroom, looked at my reflection in the mirror, puffy eyes from barely sleeping the last few weeks, pale face. I looked exhausted, like someone about to do something incredibly stupid. Arthur woke up at 7. He came into the bathroom whistling, in a good mood, already talking about the event. It's gonna be an amazing night. The sponsor's confirmed. The livestream's gonna reach thousands of people. This is gonna be great for the foundation. He was excited, genuinely excited, and I was about to destroy everything. You're gonna look beautiful, he said, kissing my forehead before leaving to get dressed. That kiss, cold, automatic, like someone following protocol. I felt a knot in my throat. I spent the whole day trying to convince myself to cancel. I picked up my phone a dozen times to text Melissa. I changed my mind. Don't show up. But I never hit send. At 4 in the afternoon, I started getting ready. I chose a discreet dress, black, simple, nothing flashy, the kind of thing that makes you disappear in a crowd. I tied my hair into a low bun, light makeup, barely there. I wanted to be invisible. Arthur left earlier, like he always did for events. He had to be there to greet people, network, make sure everything went perfectly. See you there? he asked, adjusting his tie in the entryway mirror. Maybe I'll get there a bit later, I lied. He nodded absent-mindedly and left. I waited half an hour, just sitting on the couch, hands cold, heart pounding out of rhythm. When I finally left the house, I felt like I was walking to my own execution. The auditorium was beautiful. I had been there dozens of times before, helping organize past events, but that night, it felt different, threatening, like the walls knew what was about to happen. Soft lights hanging from the high ceiling, giving everything a warm golden glow. Tables decorated with white floral centerpieces and candles. A giant screen at the front of the stage showing images of the foundation's work. Smiling kids, communities being rebuilt, lives being changed. Ironic. My life was about to be destroyed in that same place. Guests were already arriving. Women in glamorous gowns, men in flawless tuxedos. Loud laughs, champagne glasses clinking, photographers moving around with heavy cameras. I went in through the side entrance, showing a staff badge I'd gotten through a contact. Nobody questioned it. Nobody even looked at me. I hid in the back of the auditorium, near the seats reserved for the technical crew. There was a heavy curtain there, and I stood behind it, with a small gap where I could see everything without being seen. Arthur was in the center of the room, like always, perfect in a black tuxedo, hair perfectly styled, that bright smile that made everyone lean toward him. He was surrounded by people, greeting everyone like longtime friends, shaking hands, kissing cheeks, posing for photos. He was good at it, always had been. I felt a sharp ache in my chest, because for a second, I forgot why I was there. For a second, I just saw the man I loved, charming, magnetic, dazzling. And then she walked in. Melissa. The air left my lungs. Red dress. Long, elegant, but bold enough to draw attention. Discreet but suggestive neckline. A slit down the side showing her leg as she walked. Hair down in perfect waves, falling over her bare shoulders. Impeccable makeup, defined eyes, red lips. She was stunning. And every head turned when she passed, including his. I saw the exact moment Arthur noticed her. He was mid-conversation with an investor, but his eyes followed her across the room. Not a casual glance. A long one, interested. My heart sank. Melissa walked to the bar, exactly as planned. Ordered a drink, probably champagne, and leaned against the counter, waiting. She didn't go to him. That was the rule. She couldn't make the first move. It had to feel natural. He had to be the one. And he was. 5 minutes later, Arthur excused himself and crossed the room toward her. My hands were shaking. I saw him come closer. Saw him lean against the counter next to her like it was coincidence. Saw him smile. That crooked smile that once won me over. She turned. Smiled back. Soft, but welcoming. They talked. I couldn't hear from where I was, but I could see their body language. He leaned closer. She laughed, lightly touching her hair. He gestured with his hand, probably telling some story. She nodded, interested. It looked natural, like they already knew each other. My stomach twisted. 20 minutes. They talked for 20 minutes. Every second was torture. I saw him laugh in that relaxed way I hadn't seen in months. Saw him place his hand on the small of her back, a light touch, but intimate, as he guided her to a more private table. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to run in there and scream. I wanted to drag Melissa out by her hair and shake Arthur until he woke up. But my feet were glued to the floor. Because some part of me needed to see. Needed to know how far he'd go. The live music started. A jazz band playing soft standards, romantic. Some people went to the small improvised dance floor. Melissa stood up, held out her hand to him, and Arthur, my husband, the man who promised to love me forever, took her hand and went. Tears blurred my vision. Scene 8. They danced. And every second felt like being stabbed. It wasn't like in the movies, where the betrayed protagonist has a dramatic breakdown and runs out. I just froze. Like my body shut down, leaving only my eyes working, forced to watch. At first, it was discreet, respectful. His hand on her waist, her hand on his shoulder, proper distance between them. The kind you see at weddings, when distant relatives dance out of politeness. But little by little, the distance shrank. I saw their bodies move closer. I saw her head tilt slightly toward his shoulder. I saw his fingers tighten on her waist, pulling her a millimeter closer. And I saw him smile. Not the social smile he used at events. The real one. The one I thought was only mine. My chest hurt. Physically. Like someone was reaching into my ribcage and squeezing my heart hard. People around them began to notice. Curious looks, subtle whispers. Phones lifting to take casual pictures. The live stream cameras found them. I saw it on the giant screen at the front of the stage. Arthur and Melissa, dancing, blown up for everyone to see. The host made a cheerful comment about the wonderful energy of the event and the chemistry in the air. Laughter. Applause. Nobody knew. Nobody knew they were applauding the destruction of my marriage. The music changed. Something slower. More intimate. And then Melissa made the final move. She leaned in, slowly, just like we planned. A test. If he pulled away, she'd stop. End of game. Relief for me. But he didn't pull away. He kissed her. It wasn't an accidental kiss. Not a quick brush. Not a confused moment. It was a real kiss. His lips met hers and stayed there. 1 second, 2, 3. Time stopped. Cameras exploded with flashes. The big screen caught everything in high def. People pulled out their phones, recording, taking pictures, and the crowd applauded. Applauded, like it was part of the show, like it was planned, like it wasn't the worst moment of my life. Melissa pulled back quickly, like we had arranged. She whispered something to him. Probably an apology, something about going too far, and left the dance floor. But Arthur stayed, standing there in the middle of the room with that confident smile on his face, getting pats on the back from men laughing, thinking he was the man, getting jealous looks from others who probably wished they were him. And I, hidden behind the curtain, crumbled. I didn't fall to the floor, didn't scream, didn't make a scene. I just broke inside. Like the structure holding me up collapsed all at once. I needed to get out. I walked quickly down the auditorium corridors, passing waiters, tech crew, guests smoking outside. Nobody saw me. Or if they did, they didn't care. I went to the backstage area, a narrow hallway with gray walls, framed foundation posters lined up neatly. The sound of the event muffled in the background, like I was underwater. I leaned against the cold wall and tried to breathe, but the air wouldn't go in right. My chest was too tight. My hands were shaking. I felt like I was having a panic attack. Maybe I was. I heard footsteps. I looked up. Arthur. He was walking toward me with that confident stride, adjusting his shirt cuffs. When he saw me, he stopped. The smile vanished from his face, not out of guilt, out of surprise. "What are you doing here?" His voice was calm, controlled, like I was some staff member standing where I shouldn't. I saw everything. My voice came out shaky but steady, steadier than I expected. He sighed, long and tired, put his hands in his pockets. "Of course you did. You've been here the whole time, right?" My blood ran cold. "What?" He took a step toward me. His eyes, once warm and loving, were cold, distant. "You think I didn't know?" I couldn't answer. "You think I'm stupid?" He tilted his head, like he was genuinely curious. "What are you talking about?" "Melissa called me, 3 days before the event." He adjusted his tie, like we were just chatting about the weather. "She told me everything. About your little loyalty test." He made air quotes, mocking. "The world spun. She told you." "She did." He smiled, a cold, cruel smile. Apparently her conscience kicked in, thought it'd be ethical to warn me. "So you knew? This whole time?" "The whole time." My legs felt weak. "Then why? Why did I go through with it?" He finished for me. "Because you wanted a show, so I gave you a show." Tears stung my eyes. "I made a counteroffer to Melissa, paid double what you did, and asked her to go all the way. To kiss me. In front of everyone. In front of the cameras. Why? Was all I could whisper. He laughed. A low, humorless laugh. Because you wanted proof? Now the whole world has proof. You wanted to test me. I tested you. But I trusted you. No. He shook his head, correcting me like I was a child. You didn't. That's why you hired an actress. That's why you spied on me like I was a criminal. He took another step, and I automatically stepped back until my shoulders hit the wall. You destroyed this marriage, not me. You kissed her. You kissed another woman in front of hundreds of people. Because you gave me permission. His voice stayed terrifyingly calm. You created the scenario. You hired the actress. You built the stage. I just performed? That's not an excuse. You want to talk about excuses? He cut me off, his voice finally rising. You violated my privacy, manipulated a situation, tested me like I was some object, and now you want to play the victim? He turned his back, started walking away. Arthur? He stopped, didn't turn around. We're done. His voice was cold again, detached. Call your lawyer, mine will be in touch. And he left. He left me there, alone in that cold hallway, with the sound of the event echoing faintly behind me, laughter, music, applause, like nothing had happened. I slid down the wall to the floor and let the tears fall, because in that moment, I realized he was right. I had created this nightmare, and there was no undoing it. Scene 9, I waited until the event ended. I don't know how I managed. My body was on autopilot. I sat in that chair, invisible, while people left laughing, talking about the amazing night, about how much money was raised, about how Arthur was such an incredible man. When the room emptied, I went backstage. He was there, putting away some papers, still smiling to himself. Arthur. He turned, and the smile died when he saw me. Not out of guilt, out of surprise. What are you doing here? He asked calmly, like I was a worker who wandered somewhere off limits. I saw everything. My voice shook but stayed steady. He sighed, put the papers on the table, adjusted his tie. Of course you did. You were here the whole time, right? My blood froze. What? He gave a cold smile, a smile I'd never seen before. You think I didn't know? He stepped toward me. You think I'm an idiot? My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Melissa called me 3 days before the event, told me everything about your little loyalty test. He made sarcastic air quotes. I couldn't breathe. So I made a counter offer, paid double, asked her to go all the way. Why? All I could whisper. He let out a low, cruel laugh. Because you wanted a show, so I gave you one. You wanted proof. Now the whole world has proof. You wanted to test me. I tested you. Tears burned my eyes. I trusted you. No. He shook his head. You didn't. That's why you hired an actress. That's why you spied on me. You destroyed this marriage, not me. And he turned his back, like I didn't exist. Scene 10. I left that event destroyed. I drove home on autopilot, not remembering any lights or streets. When I got there, the house was empty. Arthur hadn't come back. I sat on the living room floor and let the tears fall. I cried until nothing was left, until my body hurt, until the sun started rising. My phone vibrated. It was Melissa. I'm so sorry. I didn't know he'd do that. Can I call you? My hand shook as I typed. You can. The call came in seconds. I didn't know he loved you so little. She was crying. I thought he'd laugh and turn me down, that you'd be relieved. But he called me before the event, said he knew everything, said he wanted to teach you a lesson. Teach a lesson? My voice was raw. He said you needed to understand that actions have consequences, that if you wanted to play detective, he'd give you plenty of material. She kept going. He paid me $10,000 to go all the way, To kiss him in front of the cameras. He knew it was being live streamed. He wanted the world to see. I couldn't process it. He used me to humiliate you publicly, and I was stupid enough to take the money. She sobbed. I'm so sorry. Really. I hung up, and for the first time, I felt something besides pain. I felt rage. Scene 11. The videos spread like wildfire. The next day, Arthur kissing Melissa was on every gossip site, every social media platform, every feed. Famous businessman kisses mysterious woman at charity gala. Did Arthur Morrison cheat on his wife in public? Scandal during charity event. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Friends, family, journalists. Arthur called once. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. You're going to listen to me. His voice was cold, controlled. I'm sending my lawyer with an agreement. You sign it, you get a generous amount of money, and you keep your mouth shut. This is good for both of us. Good for both of us? I laughed, bitter. You humiliated me in front of the whole world, and you want me to stay quiet? You tested me, he said calmly. You created this situation. Now deal with the consequences. And he hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand and realized he thought he'd won. He thought I'd curl up, take the money, disappear. But he didn't know me as well as he thought. Scene 12. I spent the next 3 days collecting everything. Messages, audio recordings, bank statements showing the payment to Melissa, emails where he planned to teach me a lesson, conversations with friends where he laughed about it. Melissa helped me, sent screenshots, contracts, recordings. He deserves to pay, she said. Not for me, for you. When I had everything organized, I created a folder in Google Drive. Title, The Truth About Arthur Morrison. And I shared the link. First, I sent it to journalists, then to gossip blogs. Then I posted it on my social media, which had never had more than 500 followers. I wrote just one line. If you play at testing the truth, be ready for the fire it brings. In 2 hours, the link had over 100,000 views. In 6 hours, it was trending. Arthur called me. I didn't answer. He texted. You don't know what you've done. I knew exactly what I'd done. Scene 13. The next few weeks were a blur. Arthur lost contracts, sponsors. The foundation that carried his name asked him to step down. His carefully crafted reputation collapsed. And me? I lost things too. Friends who picked sides, invitations that stopped coming, judging looks, but I gained something he never had. Peace. I went back to that auditorium one last time, empty now, silent. I sat in the last row, where I'd been that night, and took a deep breath. I thought about Melissa, about how she'd been manipulated too, and I let forgiveness come, not for him, never for him, but for myself. When I got home, my new home, small, simple, mine, I opened all the windows, I cut my hair, shoulder length, symbolic, maybe, but necessary. I deleted his number from my phone. No drama, no ceremony. And for the first time in months, I breathed without feeling my chest tighten. Finale. Sometimes love doesn't end with a romantic goodbye. It ends exposed, filmed, live-streamed, and maybe that's better, because when you see the truth on a giant screen, there's no room for doubt. I learned that testing someone is admitting trust is already dead, that setting traps is digging your own grave, and that sometimes the only way to survive the fire is to let everything burn. I don't regret discovering the truth, but I regret the way it happened. Because what I gained came wrapped in public humiliation and sleepless nights. But I'm here, rebuilding. Not happy yet, but free. And freedom, I've learned, is worth more than any fake happy ending I could have pretended to have. If you're reading this and thinking about doing a loyalty test, let me give you some advice. Don't. Because if you feel like you need one, your answer is already right in front of you. And the truth? The truth always finds a way out, with or without cameras.